poetry? What is it? Let's throw to Jem, our expert on the scene.
Good point, Steve. Let's discuss.
Coming to you live from a tower of laundry baskets and plastic containers, it's Stephen and...
Jemi!
So we'll do the rest like this. I feel much more comfortable like this.
No, that's not fair. I want to have half my head chopped off too.
So today's the second last day of our holidays, and these are our top 5 poems. So thanks to EJ Kafooples for forcing us into this. Firstly, we should talk about poetry and teaching. Personally, I've only ever taught poetry at Year 9, where their young minds are open to new possibilities, and so I use that mostly to challenge them with new ideas and to get them over the fact that poetry is awkward or cringe AF.
Our thoughts on poetry. 3, 2, 1.
Jem
We
loves
love poetry.
We love poetry. Why are you going so slow?
3, 2, 1.
We love raisins.
Just to clarify, we work at 2 completely different schools. We don't actually teach together.
This isn't even the same shirt.
We're not even in the same room.
I had to green screen Jem in. We're not on speaking terms. My 5th favourite poem to teach is A Song of the Rolling Earth by Walt Whitman. It's inside Jem's ring, so it must be important.
My number 5 is all English teacher favourites. I'm sure it's been mentioned in many of the other vlogs. Is, of course, Papooses' Shooter.
Down on my side, I got the Ruger. Haters keep running their mouth, they spread rumors. None of these lame niggas can't do nothing to us. Do something to us. Your talk goes haters on over to the ER. Send the haters on over to the ER. Send the haters on over to the ER. Send the haters on over to the ER.
Just kidding, it's not my number 5, but I have a disclosure. I'm an English teacher, but I don't teach poetry all that often. That's not the part you should be sorry about. You're also an English teacher.
Terribly poor.
But I'm happy.
Okay, we're happy.
And a little bit of respect within society, so life's okay. So I actually I'm going to teach poetry more. And I've been inspired by the number of videos of different educators talking about their top 5 poems.
Yeah,
I really have 4. Number 4.
Sarah Key's Hands.
Tell us about that one, Steve.
It's a lovely poem by Sarah Key, a slam poem about hands, how they can be used to hold or to harm.
My number 4 is Maxine Clarke's My People. She's an Australian poem.
Who's since become an author.
Yes, she's actually going to be featured in the upcoming Melbourne Writers' Fest, if anyone's interested.
747 Guantanamo Bay, my people.
Very nice rhythm in that poem.
For me, my number 3 is I Was Only 19, which was originally by Red Gum and then has since been covered by The Herd, so you can sort of show how the old version was very Australiana and then the newer version was a little bit more hip-hop, a little bit more skip-hop. Australian hip-hop, that's what it's called.
Oh, cool.
You did not know?
No, I did not know.
My word, you did not know. It's one of the few poems I can actually recite off the top of my head. Every time we drive to Sydney, we drive past Puckapunyal, and I can be relied upon to turn to Jem and say, Mum, Dad and Denny saw the passing out parade at Puckapunyal. It was a long march from cadets. And then Jem has to
he does
put
do
up with that as we drive for the next 15 minutes.
Coincidentally, my number 3 is also a part of this subgenre called skip hop, and it's by an artist called Earthboy, and he wrote a song called Long Loud Hours, which is about a criminal and his beloved, and he goes to jail and she manages to fly a helicopter into the prison yard and get him, and then go on the run where they were eventually caught. I just love showing this clip and talking about the lyrics to my classes, because in Australia we love to celebrate the righteous criminal.
For me, number 2 is from the Australian slam poetry scene, and it's by Abe Nook, and I'm not actually sure what the name of it is, but it's a poem about him with his love of learning from Sudan and in refugee camps before he arrived in Australia, and it's very touching
to go to school
and thoughtful.
My number 2 is a Shakespeare sonnet. Not the usual Shakespeare sonnet, but it's 130, where he's talking about how his beloved is not pretty in any way, but he still loves her anyway. So I kind of like showing my kids that, because they might think of Shakespeare or really old time poets as talking about what true love is, and this idealized notion of what love is, and how Shakespeare was kind of thinking about flipping that on its head way back then, as well as the usual iambic pentameter and rhyming couplets and stanzas and all that kind of stuff as well.
So my number one is Bob Dylan's Masters of War. I typically teach poetry through the lens of conflict or war, and this is one that always students are able to connect with regardless of what year it is, just because it has a certain energy and a certain rebellious nature to it that students seem to connect with.
My number one, even though I don't teach much poetry in my everyday English classes, every year we have a writers' festival at my school, and I run a slam poets workshop, and so the slam poem that I always start with is Sarah Kay's If I Should Have a Daughter, and she did a TED talk a couple of years ago, and it's just a lovely way of introducing the idea of slam poetry being a performance. And so it is about the words and the lyrics, but then it's also about how the author chooses to use their voice and use their body and movement to get across the meaning of the poem. Thank you to EJ Kafooples, who gave us a little bit of a kick up the butt to get this video done. It's been a while between videos. Life kind of gets a bit crazy and school gets a bit full on, but we've just had a nice 3 weeks off. So this is a good headspace to start our term 3 in. So thanks, EJ. Kolber out.
Cheers.